Let me in, coach. We're ready? Welcome to True Out Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Celiac disease. Okay, so we've talked about gut, we talked about brain. This is going to be the cause and solution to celiac disease. Like, where did it come from? But knowing that we're coming out of year 3 to flatten the curve for 2 weeks, cognitive dissonance causes people to create conspiracy theories like the ones above to change facts to match their beliefs rather than changing their beliefs to match the facts. I just thought that was pertinent. I thought it was cool. Okay, now, all those that are supporting Dr. B, we've been demonetized for 2.5 years, and your support is invaluable. $2.97 a month or $29 a year. Thank you. All those people that are watching this are going to watch through, because we had to, since this video was censored, before, we've had to take out the censorable material, then we're putting it on the back half so it can actually tell you what's happening, particularly with some of the causes of certain medical interventions that can cause bowel disorders that we can't talk about. Extreme Health Academy. I'm going to be on there, I think, next week or the week after. We do an hour webinar. And if you think about this, $199 a year or $19 a month, then you can try it. Bergman 14 is the code. You know, it's right below, click it. But we're also going to be putting this on drjohnbergman.com, BitChute, I mean, everything. So let's look at the digestion. Think of this, okay, forget celiac disease, forget all the stuff that you thought that you knew. Okay, you know, we're going to go over if you have that little bug in your head that, oh, it runs in my family, it's genetic, it's this. No, we're going to wipe out all that stuff. If you had a herd of water buffalo that had been eating this in this area for 10,000 years, because we've been harvesting grain for 10,000 years, then all of a sudden, some of them, okay, 1 out of 100 started to develop a bowel disorder. Should we go in there with steroids or find out what they're eating? I would think so too. Now, the nervous system controls and coordinates every function of the body. You got 2 parts of it. One part keeps you alive under stress, and that's the sympathetic. When you're in the fight or flight state, blood rushes to the arms and legs away from the gut. When you're in the parasympathetic, the rest, digest, and repair, it goes from the arms back to the gut. So you've got this automatic nervous system controlling digestion. Let's look at the Celiac Disease Foundation. I don't know if they have been sponsored by Big Pharma, but celiac is an autoimmune disorder that can occur in genetically predisposed people where ingestion of gluten leads to damage to the small intestinal wall. Immune responses attack the small intestine. So interesting. An autoimmune disorder, so the body's attacking itself. I disagree with that, but let's see. 1 in 100 people worldwide, so 99% of the people don't have it. 2.5 million Americans are undiagnosed and at risk of long-term complications. So what is this? When you look at the small intestine, you got the stomach, small intestine leads off of this, okay, it goes into the jejunum, the ileum, and then it dumps into the large intestine. Now, the small intestine has these little villi, okay, that they're covered in hair cells. I mean, it's just increases the surface area massively. So when you eat the broccoli or the bell pepper or the steak or whatever, you're breaking it down into protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and it flows over these villi where there's a huge surface area in order to get the absorption. It's just absolutely fantastic. The problem is if you damage the tissue, it starts to swell up and expand out. So there's some kind of inflammatory response or tissue damage that occurs. So you're looking at healthy villi and unhealthy villi. Now, the gut is hugely important. People do not appreciate generally people, and when I'm talking people, I mean doctors that are responsible for other people's health. Okay, aside from the general public, the gut-brain connection is huge. You get neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut. You've got 12 cranial nerves that extend below the skull here. And one of them, cranial nerve 10, is the vagus nerve. Now, it goes on the front and back of the esophagus down to do every action in the stomach, okay, and the intestinal tract. So this does all the motility, all the excretion, all the absorption. I mean, everything in the digestive tract, it does, just this one nerve. Yes, the one nerve to rule them all. Now, no, I like Lord of the Rings. I thought it was cool. Okay, but the problem is that's only 10% of its function. 90% of this vagus nerve's function is to get information coming up from the gut. So think of this. You're only alive because you're able to get amino acids from the proteins, fatty acids from the fats, and usable sugars from the carbohydrates. Without that, you can't live. You don't live. Every 120 days, every red blood cell you got's brand new. Every 28 days, your skin's brand new. Your bones are brand new every 6 to 7 years. So you're always in a continual breakdown and buildup of tissue. If you don't do that, you don't live. And then your species doesn't go on. This is why that one vagus nerve that does everything, 90% of it has to communicate and let you know what environment you're in. Because have you ever heard of Montezuma's Revenge? Okay, we're in Southern California now, and they used to think that when Americans would go to Mexico, they'd get diarrhea, okay, and except when Mexicans come to America, okay, they could get diarrhea too. All it is the change of gut flora. This is what the appendix is supposed to do. So when you eat stuff, your brain has got to understand the bacteria, the funguses, the viruses. Are these pathogenic? Are they going to cause you a problem? Or are they part of the normal flora of the environment you're in? So when you change environments, your body will evacuate the bowel. You got the appendix there to repopulate the intestinal tract, so you're able to survive in different environments. Okay, does that make sense? That's the beauty of the vagus nerve. Now, I love this. The second brain can control gut behavior independent of the brain. So it's huge. When you look at this, keep thinking gut, brain, gut immune system, gut immune system. Now, in kids who have this, which is mind-blowing, okay, and one of the reasons that this video series was deleted before is because we talk about certain medical procedures that cannot be mentioned, okay, before 2019 that could cause inflammation of the bowel, but we can't even mention those here. But just imagine, so now kids, irritability, behavior issues, fatigue, delayed growth, delayed puberty, failure to thrive, attention deficit disorder. In adults, the bone loss, osteoporosis, anxiety, stress, depression, because remember, you got neurotransmitters produced down there. Infertility, miscarriage, all of this can lead, or come from that inflammatory bowel. Long-term effects, osteoporosis, deficiency, infertility, miscarriage, pancreatic issues, gallbladder malfunction, neurologic. Look at this, epileptic seizures, dementia, neuropathy, myopathy. I mean, this is all from poor digestion, okay, from some type of inflammatory process. Celiac disease, the only treatment, look at this, the only treatment is lifelong adherence to strict gluten-free diet. That's because somebody just developed it. Now think of this. Most people that are gluten sensitive weren't gluten sensitive when they were kids. Okay? And so what's causing this? Well, what happens is, and this is, again, clinical and experimental gastroenterology, what causes this? Gluten is a protein. Okay? Now, proteins can get they're taken in here, they're broken down by the stomach, they go through the small intestine, okay, they get absorbed through the liver. The liver is an enzyme factory that breaks it down to the amino acids, dumps it into the bloodstream so that it can get to the tissue to rebuild the body. However, these peptides, these proteins, resist complete digestion. So you're getting proteins that aren't tempered or broken down by that digestive process into the bloodstream. And when the body recognizes a foreign protein that hasn't been broken down by digestion, floating in the bloodstream, it flips out and it builds antibodies towards that protein. So they're seeing increased intestinal permeability, leaky gut. And this stimulates CD4 and T cells, which are going to be inflammatory responses. The body recognizes these peptides as bad guys, antigens, and initiates immune system response. And this is also when you look at Hashimoto's. Ever hear of Hashimoto's thyroiditis? Okay, is that hyper, hypo, or both? Is that too much thyroid function, too little thyroid function, or both? It's both. Okay, I know, I'm going to give you the answer. It's both. Okay, and why would that be? Hashimoto's is also, and again, it's one of those things where they say it's unknown, we just don't know. Like science is God, instead of, coming up with the best idea that's causing it. So what happens if you have gluten or casein proteins that aren't tempered by digestion in the bloodstream, then the body builds antibodies towards those foreign proteins. And if you have a high antibody level, those proteins that are built against gluten and caseins can negatively affect the thyroid. So high antibodies, low thyroid. Low antibodies, the thyroid rebounds, okay? And that's Hashimoto's. This also, celiac disease, has to do with a leaky gut. So really, could it be genetics? Well, let's look at it. Clinical and experimental gastroenterology. These are our enzyme markers. HLA-DQ2, HLA-DQ8 are found in virtually all patients with celiac disease. 30 to 35% are Caucasian. Only 2 to 5% will develop it. So combining all of these factors, okay, you're talking 10% of genetic risk. That means 90% you don't. That means they're grasping at straws. Because if anybody understands the difference between genetic and genetic expression, that's a whole different world. So think of this. You're looking at all of these patients that have these genes, but are they expressing it? Well, less than 10%. Is it involved in the disease? No, a lot of people have it and they're not expressing it. So it's genetic expression or suppression. So what causes that epigenetic control? What is it? Let's look at environmental factors. Exposure of infants to dietary gluten, early infection with viruses that can damage or infections in the intestinal tract, changes in bacterial flora. Interesting, bacterial flora. So knowing that the intestinal tract has got a huge amount of different bacteria, funguses, yeast, it's like an ecosystem. You've got 30,000 different species in there if you're an Aborigine. So anything that damages that gut flora or damages the wall is going to cause these proteins to go into the system. Okay, does that make sense? Now, breastfeeding protects. That's interesting. So it turns out, and I know this is a shocker, I'm glad you're sitting down, that human beings, when they're born, their mom is to secrete milk that has certain things that protect the child, and the mom is able to pass on some of her IgM or her experiences that she's had with life to protect the child. So anything you do to the mom's immune system can affect the child's immune system. This is why it's very hard to check injectables or medications on pregnant people, because not a lot of pregnant people want to sign up for that because it could negatively affect the kid. Well, it turns out that breast milk protects against the development of celiac disease. It may have to do with all of these different properties, or it may just mean that we're just designed to have that. Now, here's a bummer. Glyphosate levels found in breast milk of American women. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't the FDA approve this as generally recognized as safe? Okay, yes, I know. They approve a lot of things. It's called industry capture. Regulatory capture, okay? The agency that's supposed to regulate the industry has been captured by it. So glyphosate is a known antibiotic which destroys the gut flora, which allows yeast and molds to bore holes in the intestinal tract. But this was supposed to be, now glyphosate, it's an herbicide. Okay, it's sprayed on virtually everything, okay? And this is where genetically modified organisms come from. Now, if you've ever looked at keys on how to produce a famine, okay, like if you really want to know, look back in history, monocrops are the key. Okay, so this is why you have one crop everywhere, so one pathogen hits that, you can wipe everything out. It's amazing. Okay, glyphosate is found in American urine and drinking water. Now, infectious etiologies have been proven to have a causal relationship. These include adenovirus, Campylobacter, enterovirus, rotavirus. Now, I don't know where they'd be getting rotavirus or enterovirus through certain medical procedures, but you know, a lot of these viruses, they don't cause it in healthy people. So let's look at a little bit of history. Now now if you're confused, and I was confused by this too, if you went into school and you remember time has BC, okay, and AD, okay, does anybody remember that, or has that been locked off of your brain? Okay, because BC used to mean before Christ. Okay, AD, I mean, we used to call it after death, but it was Anno Domini, it was like some Latin term. That was after Christ got here. So they have to take the secularization. So now BCE is before the Common Era, just to get you up to speed. So this is like 10,000 years ago, because now we're in like the 2000s. Okay, what they used to do is they would plant this, and this is hunter-gatherers even. They'd throw the wheat on the ground or the seeds on the ground. They'd go to their winter hunting grounds, come back at the end of the summer, and the plants would grow. Okay, and they'd harvest it. Now, what's interesting, when they would harvest the grain, this is like amber waves of grain. Have you ever heard that? Okay, the grain was tall, and they would cut it, they would tie it up and leave it in the field, because it turns out that grains, plants don't give up their seed unless they start to die. Okay, I know. Go on, say it with me. Duh. Where did you come from? Everybody knows that. Okay, so they tie it up in a field, and it would ferment and start to die, so you could get more seeds out of it. Then you would thrash it and separate the wheat from the chaff. I mean, worked really good for 10,000 years. About in the 70s, they produced this dwarf wheat plant, which was amazing. It increases production, but it had 40 different types of proteins that human beings had never seen before. And I love this. This stocky little high-yield plant was a distant relative of wheat our mothers used, genetically and biomechanically light years removed from wheat just 40 years ago. But now see how they're piling up all this grain? Okay, they're now there's not GMO grain, but they are spraying it with glyphosates, and you can increase production 20%, because remember, the plant gives its seed up when it dies. And if you have an herbicide that can kill that friggin' plant all at one time, you get a better harvest. No, don't worry about this. It's generally recognized as safe. It must be fine. I know. It's like crazy. Problems with wheat cultivation, I mean, it's just like all farmers. Okay, you know, you've got weather, you've got pesticides, you've got all this other stuff. This is why monocrops don't protect the plants. You know, there's certain farming methods that will protect the plants more than what we're doing now. Now, Interdiscipline Toxicology Journal, Dr. Stephanie Seneff talks about imbalances in gut bacteria. That makes a lot of sense, because the glyphosate is an antibiotic. So if you have funguses, molds, yeast, and bacteria in there, and you all of a sudden kill one of them, the others can grow rapidly. I encourage you to watch the movie Wolves Can Change the Path of a River. Okay, it has, I mean, just interesting as all hell. When they reintroduced the wolves in Yellowstone, and they had the rivers changed, the meadows changed, everything changed. It's really, really cool, okay? But think of that about your intestinal tract, because if you wipe out one species, the other are going to grow rapidly. So if you kill the bacteria, the mold, yeast, and funguses, which are the food for the bacteria, are going to grow. Now, point to impairment of cytochrome 450 enzymes. Now, these enzymes that are impaired from the glyphosates detoxify, activate vitamin D3, catabolize vitamin A, maintain bile acids, sulfate supplies to the gut. Now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture lists the glyphosates has slow-release pesticide-laden gluten. It's links GMO to gluten disorders. Okay, so we know this stuff, but it's generally recognized as safe. Now, remember, the people that elect your leaders, okay, are actually funded by the pharmaceutical industry. So, you know, don't expect a lot of people going down and saying, hey, look, we should stop this. Now, this is 2020, molecular and cellular endocrinology. Some reports of the effects are due to high doses. However, recent evidence have shown that exposure to low doses could also development of female reproductive tract and consequences on fertility. So this substance, even though it's been proven to cause cancer, it's an herbicide, a natural antibiotic. It can also cause female fertility issues. Now, this is in almost every commercially produced grain product in America. Studies have demonstrated that glyphosate-based herbicides, that's the GBH, alters the development and differentiation of ovarian follicles, uterus, affecting fertility when animals are exposed before puberty. And I got to tell you, there's a thing, polycystic ovary syndrome, which is on so many people now. One of the ways that we correct it, we say, look, no more fast food. I mean, and it's just like, no, it can't be that simple. But we stop the fast food, we get the physical stress taken care of, take care of the emotional stress, and heal their gut. And the body forms those the ovaries. It forms the cyst on the ovaries, fibroids on the uterus, because the body is trying to wall off toxins. I mean, it's amazing. Glyphosate has been considered generally safe to animal health. Recent studies show that its potential to cause adverse effects in animal reproduction. So let's get you better. Okay, so we know it's not genetic. We know it's not bad luck or bad genes, okay? We know it's environmental. We know it's something's damage in the gut flora. Okay, so let's heal it. Number one, you've got physical, chemical, emotional stress. These things, if you're not dealing with that stress effectively, it's going to draw blood away from the gut and you're going to have poor digestion. Second step, eliminate genetically modified organisms. If you still believe in the electoral system that we have, write letters, text people, share this information, okay? Non-organic meats, okay, okay, this is, when you're looking at this, they're actually feeding genetically modified crops to animals. Now, one of them has BT corn, and this is a toxin that turns the pollen of the corn plant into something that destroys the guts of insects. Now they said, don't worry about it, you know, only animals are going to eat it, we're not going to give it to humans. Problem is, it survived the animal's digestion, embedded in the meat, survives the mom's digestion and the cooking process, and they're finding it in umbilical cords in children now. So if you're eating non-commercial, non-organic meats, or meats that have been fed GMO food, it can be damaging to your child. You know, no one's saying population control, but it sure looks like it, okay? Now, what's the function? So why is gut flora so important? So if you had a government agency that wasn't captured by the regulatory bodies that they're supposed to regulate, okay? Okay, they're the bodies that they're supposed to regulate, okay? If you knew your gut flora was vital for digestion, absorption of energy, carbohydrates. It produces vitamins, absorbs minerals, eliminates toxins, tells you what you should fight and what shouldn't. Okay, that's autoimmune in a nutshell. Keeps harmful bacteria under control, aids in production of antibodies to pathogens, provides support to the immune system, 80% of it. So if you knew the gut was that important, do you think that you'd have agencies, if they actually gave a shit about your health, okay, that would pay attention to the stuff that's in the food system? Okay, this is craziness. Okay, and what we tell people is if man makes it, don't eat it. Okay, it seems too simple. And if you say, look, it's too expensive, yeah, I'm with you there. So get frozen organic. You can get frozen organic pretty cheap. And if you freeze broccoli or blueberries, they still maintain 95% of the antioxidants, so it's still good. What kind of stuff damage your gut flora? Antibiotics, medications, processed foods. Now, what kind of medications? Advil, Motrin, Aleve, Advil PM, every kind of medication, birth control pills. All of these damage the gut flora. And the top one I can't even talk about. Yeah, they just passed AB 2098. If you're a medical doctor, you can't say certain things to your patients, they'll pull your license. Yes, government. Okay, antibiotics. Antibiotics kill the bacteria. Yeast have these boring hole things called hyphae. They bore holes in the intestinal tract, and this is one of the problems. So what can you do? Oh my God, it can't be this easy. Increasing physical activity, a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, maintaining social engagement, really emotional connection is important for digestion? Yes. Participating in intellectually stimulating activities. Okay, this helps your brain and helps your body. What kind of stuff can damage your brain and body? Medications, nutritional deficiencies, infection, poison, brain tumors, hypoxia. So this is what you do. If you've been diagnosed with celiac disease or any other inflammatory bowel disease, physical, chemical, emotional stress, start juicing. Why? Why juicing? Well, juicing breaks it down, separates the heavy fibers from the soluble fibers. Soluble fibers can clean the arteries, but let food be your medicine. Now, carrot juice is amazing, okay? Turns into beta carotene, it cleans the lungs. And guess what? The lungs are a blood filter. And when you're in a stressed state, the blood becomes thicker. Beet juice will turn your pee and poo red, but it's fantastic for cleaning the liver. Okay, you get grape juice, apple juice. Apple juice is fantastic. That's malic acid. It cleans the kidneys, and that's another blood filter. So juicing is fantastic. And then you could eat soft foods to heal that gut and heal that intestine. Just remember, in a stressed state, blood goes away from the gut to the arms and legs. In a relaxed state, it goes from the arms and legs back to the gut. So you got to look at that autonomic nervous system. You can start, okay, after you do this for about a week, you start changing your sleep patterns, brown rice or quinoa, and start to build up to that fiber content. Now, it's interesting. Keto diet, okay, and keto vegetarian diet is what or a vegan diet we talk about for people with cancers, and this is what we get them on. Why? Because your cells have glucose metabolism or fat metabolism. And the cancer cells can't go to the glucose metabolism. So this is why they know high-fat diets help with epilepsy, headaches, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, sleep disorders. It's fantastically important. So you just change what you're putting in your mouth. When you're looking at gluten and casein-free diets, this has been brilliant, okay, on people with autism. And I mean, there's so many videos out there where kids couldn't speak and you change their gut flora. I've been trying to work up something, but I can't find fecal transplants, a good source of it. But we're going to be doing that for autistic kids because, I mean, it's still an epidemic that you don't hear of. Healthy fats, organic butter, coconut oil, ghee, fish oil, I mean, all this stuff. Cheap oils, like anything that you see is clear on the shelf, like the corn oil, canola oil, soy oil, those are poisonous to your system. They damage the arteries. Organic, healthy, plant-based diet. It seems too simple, but I tell people you're going to eat like your great-great-grandparents, but you still got to deal with the stressors. And what do? They ate nothing but whole food, organic, seasonal. Fermented foods. This is the most important thing that you could do. So, but don't just take that one kombucha. Okay, start fermenting on your own. Get some street food. Go out there. Get some good, healthy bacteria. I mean, it works. You build your bacteria, you're going to be fine. Probiotics and digestive disorders. Recent studies demonstrate that probiotic bacteria have beneficial effects on these diseases by improving the intestinal barrier. Holy moly, so we need bacteria in our body. We're designed to live here. You're 2/3 bug if you want to look at it. You've got 70 trillion cells. You've got 10 times that number of bacteria. You've got 10 times bacteria number of viruses. We're not even counting the funguses and everything else. You're a symbiote. You're designed to live here. Without that flora, you don't make it. I mean, look at this. Antioxidant-rich foods. Do you want to lower your cancer risk and heal your gut? Yeah. Blueberries, goji berries. Yes. Dark chocolate. No, honey, it's good for me. You know, you take unsweetened dark chocolate, dip that sucker in some honey, and it's pretty damn good. Okay. Glutathione, master detoxicant, master antioxidant. And what's interesting is acetaminophen or Tylenol depletes your body of glutathione. Okay, sulfur-rich compounds, garlic, onions, cruciferous vegetables. You can eat grains, and I'd start eating grains after about a month of getting your physical, chemical, and emotional stress. You got to change your sleep patterns, everything. Sprouted grains, sourdough, the bacteria are already breaking down the glutens. Rice, buckwheat, oats, quinoa. So what are we going to do? You can abdicate authority over your health and go to a pharmaceutical trained distribution agent. Okay, my buddy doctor in the front row just giggled. Okay, they're work at insurance companies and hospitals. I can't call them doctors because if they're only dispensing things and not treating you as an individual, if they're allowing there to be used to give you a forced medical procedure without informed consent, they're violating the Hippocratic Oath, so these are not doctors. So we're going to clean up the food system, healthy farming practices, we've been doing it for forever, not clean up the food system like they're doing in Denmark. We're going to clean up healthcare. This means the pharmaceutical industry will be responsible for their products, and they can't be responsible for donating to the education process. And they can't advertise on TV, no more direct-to-consumer advertisements. Environmental, we can clean that up, not from global warming, but not solar and wind. I love the fiasco of the wind stuff. I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay, but you can have fresh water, fresh fruit in a healthy environment. Politics, balanced budget, wouldn't that be cool? Have them run it like, you know, any single mom with 3 kids. Okay, and infrastructure, we're gonna change this. So when we put this up each time, nerve supply, exercise, this helps with that celiac. Proper nutrition, it's so simple. You're gonna go plant-based for a while because it's easier to digest. Rest, gets you in the parasympathetic nervous system. And prayer and meditation, you're connecting with a power greater than you. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Instead of being a victim and saying it comes from, we just don't know. No, that's this bullshit religion. No, we do know what causes it, okay? It's toxicity and stupidity. So now we're gonna delve into the stuff that I wanted to share with you, that I did share before and it was deleted. So if you're watching with Dr. B VIP, you're going to watch uninterrupted. God bless you. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your $2.97 a month is invaluable. Okay. And those watching on YouTube and Facebook, we have, I think it's one more day, and then our strike is wiped out. Yes?